Alright. Hello. It is I, the DJC, aka TheDonJuanCarlos, and we're here for another video. Today's it's gonna be a bit different. First off, I want to start off by saying that this is more so gonna be, for at least on my end, it's gonna be more so a podcast-ish type video. So I honestly wouldn't worry about the gameplay on the screen. You could just chuck it on in the
Yes,
background
yes.
and kind of vibe TF out, because we're gonna be talking about just Crucible and how it like stacks up and what it's looking like, and kind of like our concerns and what and different things we'd like to see when it comes to changes in the Crucible coming up. I'm not by myself. I'm here with my good friend and partner in this video, the
Yes,
gaming
sir.
monk.
And partner in crime, some would say.
And partner in crime, some would say. So before we get this started, I want to just develop a little bit of our credibility here. So for myself, I have been playing Destiny since beta. I've been playing Crucible since beta as well. And at least on Steam, my hours are 3K plus, and with our 2 hours combined, it's about 5K
Mm-hmm.
hours. So we've invested a lot of time into the video game,
Yes, yes.
to say the least. Now, while we both of us might not be the best Crucible players, we have held our own against many of the flawless gentlemen. A lot of the trials guys that go flawless. We've been able to go blow to blow with them a lot of the time. So uh, I want to say all that to say is, uh, this is gonna be more of an opinion based like op or edit, where it's like there's things that we personally have that we are concerned about in the game, and we're kind of just going to be talking about going through all of it. I know I have a bunch of stuff that I want to talk through, and I'm sure that my fellow partner also has some things he'd like to talk to. So before we get into it, I'd like him to introduce himself so he can also create his credibility, so you know he is not some
Some,
lameo.
some pleb. But no, I am the gaming monk, and I have seriously started playing Destiny around Season of the Forge on PC, and I played on Battle.net ages, but I also played D1 on Xbox 360 for a little bit before that. But now I have about 2,500 hours, somewhere encroaching around there. Um, but yeah, ever since basically around Opulence and Shadowkeep, my game time is upkept tremendously, and kept climbing just up and up and up since Beyond Light, honestly, when we've started doing a lot more testing and stuff. But PvP wasn't really my thing as far as my main focus in Destiny went, but recently in the last like year or so, it's grown more and more. And a lot of the issues that at least I have with the game have kind of been deep rooted at the beginning since I started playing Crucible, and certain things have just exacerbated it. So at least in my opinion for right now, but yeah.
So not only that, we do have a person in our server who is a PvP god, and sometimes I'd personally like to just talk to him and just pick his brain
Mm-hmm.
about Crucible and how the Crucible stacks up. The homie Bloom, who is not here, but shouts out to him. Homeboy's goated at the game. So I'm also taking into consideration some of his gripes with the current state of the game as well, because he plays it. He plays Crucible a lot more than us, and he is a genius in the Crucible. That's what I'll
Yes,
say.
yes.
So before we get started on anything, is there anything, Mr. Monk, that you'd like to say first, or would you like to start us off?
Uh, I guess I'll start us off and start with my biggest gripe right now, Dead Man's Tale,
Mm-hmm.
because it is probably the most prevalent, at least weapon side issue that I see in Crucible at the time
Mm.
at this current time.
Okay, so we're just gonna start
Oh
off
yeah.
weapons. All
Well, I
right,
mean,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I figured
Well,
I
we can
figured
just start.
weapons are weapons are problematic across all three classes.
Mm. Mm. No, but 100%. I feel you. I'm totally down to start
But
there. So, Dead Man's. Dead Man's Tale. Man, oh man. Let me tell you about Dead Man's. Let's before I put in my complaints, I want to be very objective so that the opinion of this is not skewed in any way or the other. Dead Man's Tale is probably the strongest scout rifle in the game currently. Like there aren't any scout rifles, even legendary or exotic, that just stack up to Deadman's. Mostly, so vanilla Deadman's without the catalyst, it's just a repeater scout
mhm.
rifle. And it maintains the aspects of just an exotic scout rifle, um, except of course, getting headshots increases your cranial spike stacks,
Which in turn increases your just
and
flat damage, so it's just a better jig
yeah, in turns
rabbit when
increase
we're looking at it.
yeah when you look at it like that. However, it's when it's has no catalyst, it's still locked to 120 RPM, so you can't fire it as fast as you can click, and that's kind of like the main problem with Dead
Mm-hmm.
Man's. While yes, the gun is fun, it's fun to use. The issue in turn lies is that it's because of how the catalyst just works, being able to have no hipfire penalty, no hipfire deviation, you can just shoot as fast as you want and really not get punished for doing anything. You kind of just sit there and just spam left click and people just fall over.
Mm-hmm.
And in a game where like movement is important, or a game where like there's some things you can't predict in a game, but losing gunfights because a teammate of yours fought somebody with Dead Man's is kind of like not itchy.
Yeah.
And arguably, because it's a scout rifle, it has so much range, and it just has too many options all the
And
time.
like Dead Man's really
Like
doesn't have
honestly,
like the downside of a scout rifle, if we're being
mm-hmm.
honest. Like I've seen people running Dead
So
Man's sniper, and I'm like, that just shouldn't. Like I could see how on certain maps that might be okay, but I mean that's just range Lamau. And
mm-hmm.
since Dead Man's works the way it does, it's not. I have to stay at range Lamau. I can just do whatever I want. If
Mm-hmm.
we're being real.
or
But
or if we talk about like more the prevalent loadouts, it's usually just Dead
oh
Man's grenade
yeah, oh
launcher.
yeah. That's definitely more prevalent, but that is another loadout that I've seen that just made me go, yeah, yep, Dead Man's is a gun.
Mm-hmm. Because one of the things about Dead Man's, it's a Tex Machina gun,
Mm-hmm.
or however you pronounce it. And if you think about Tex guns, you think about Shap, you think about Last Word. Especially Last Word, it's it's very high skill cap guns. However, Dead Man's just ignores the fact that it requires high skill. Like anyone can pick up Dead Man's and kind of like just pop off because of the way that Dead Man exists.
Mm-hmm.
You have no hipfire deviation. It's super easy to aim. And then if for every reason you wanted an ADS, you also have long range. Even though hip firing does hit long range, which it really shouldn't, but you know,
It shouldn't hit as strong.
it's it shouldn't be as strong, or the bullets shouldn't magnetize as much towards the head from far distances, but it does.
I mean, bullet
Now,
magnetism is just innately built in the game. I don't think you can edit it based off of weapon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can
mm-hmm.
be like, yes, since it's firing. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, but it while it is based in the game, it does seem as though specifically Deadman's is an oversight.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to bring this up. I expected this to come up later, but since we're here now, what are the major things that I think is lacking, just like on the development team side, is there is not really for what it feels like. Let me just say, from my opinion, what it feels like. It doesn't seem like there are people that there are obviously there's testers, but there aren't enough people testing the different guns in Crucible. Now, if I was working at Bungie, which I'd love to, and like especially testing new exotics and stuff like that, I'd honestly be running Crucible scrims at the studio literally every day for about 3 or 4 hours until like launch
Yeah.
to test out, especially for a new exotic that you're supposed to see, like how it stacks up against the current meta, especially in Crucible, because there's a lot of guns that get tested in PVE activities that don't get tested in Crucible, and there's like huge oversights like Deadman's.
Hmm. And I feel like
And
to say what you're saying a different way is there's not enough people testing enough of the game. Like I feel like it's just there's oversights in a lot of weapons that like at the beginning of the season, fucking energy accelerant working with symmetry and all that. I feel like that's just an oversight that enough people weren't testing enough of the game. You know what I mean?
and that's yeah, that comes to account that that gun isn't relevant. So obviously, they're not going to test
Mm-hmm.
it. And because there's not enough people to test certain stuff like symmetry working with energy accelerant, or symmetry work or energy accelerant working with Telesto or Deathbringer or Black Talon, because remember those were the
Mm-hmm.
four guns that it was proccing on
Mm-hmm.
earlier, before it got disabled. Um, like they're either either they're testing it and not doing it, being very thorough with it, or they're just not testing it. There's just not enough people playing it in
Mm-hmm.
Crucible, or they're not testing it Crucible matchups, which is like the most important thing. Like honestly, base game is fun. The PVE is fun. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter how broken some of this stuff is in PVE because you're playing against AI.
Yeah.
However, in when you match up players versus players, a lot of times skill gets pushed to the side. For example, like when stasis became like prevalent, like week one, week two stasis wasn't really that big a deal.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like all the not artifacts, what is it called? The
Yeah.
aspects of stasis started coming out, and then you started getting shatter dives, you started getting Titan wall slides, um, like all of that by itself might not seem strong, but again, if it's not tested in top level, it doesn't even have to be top level. As long as you're testing it in Crucible on all the different maps and testing just basically how strong stuff can be, uh, then that's how you can really like tweak it down for launch so it's not as
Yeah.
strong, and we don't have 6 months of just 6 months of just bases noises. And of course we're talking about Deadman's, but it Deadman's is just one part of the overlapping
Mm-hmm.
umbrella that is lacking. And again, my suggestion to fix a lot of this stuff is just to be running Crucible scrims on PC. Do not run, like, if you're gonna run Crucible scrims, there's no point in running it on console. I understand that most of the developers play on console, and that's like their main thing, but a lot of these issues, especially for Deadman's, it are PC issues because there's just so much. You have access to so much more on PC, and you're not limited to stuff. Just having more buttons, more options, better flicking, and all of that is just one of the advantages of being on PC. So
Yeah.
if you develop the game for console, stuff like Deadman's now being thoroughly tested on PC gets through, and then we have 3 months worth of Deadman's. People running Deadman 6 stacks in Iron Banner because that's why not.
Because it's effective and like it's just honestly the best thing to run right now because you can chuck it on with Salvo, you could chuck it on with Fowinters, you could chuck it on with so much that would, and like Found Verdict in the energy slot, like you could chuck it in with so much, and
You can run double kinetic with Dead Man's freaking Igneous
yeah,
Hammer. That's the case. For some reason, your Igneous Hammer isn't reaching as far. You can just swap to Dead
yeah,
Man's.
and like Igneous Hammers just range them out.
We're gonna get to that one.
Yeah,
we're gonna get to that
that's
one.
a little bit. That's a little bit. It's a little bit too much for right now. But no, I just feel like Dead Man's, especially with it being in kinetic. But that's nothing like wrong with the gun. Like you can't like take it off of kinetic. Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's a lot in energy that's also overtuned. But it's just Dead Man's, I feel like, has too many options all the time, and it's labeled as a scout rifle. So
It's not a scout
you instantly
rifle.
think that you're gonna have to stick at range and all that, and then you realize that you don't have to do any of that. Like you just don't. You don't have to stick at range. You don't have to stay further back. You can just run around wherever. In all honesty.
Yeah, because there's no hipfire deviation. That's like, so. I'll ask you this: how would you, before we get off Dead Man's, how would you change Dead Man's tail?
Honestly, I would stop Cranial Spike from increasing the damage just straight up over everything. I would have it increase like fucking precision damage only, right? And then the reload buff is fine. To me, that's cool. That's rewarding for like actually getting Cranial Spike, and that's fine with me. But like it just increasing all damage is a little bit much because it lets you still 3-tap people in Crucible as long as you just have like one stack, because it just flat up increases your damage for the rest of it, so you don't have to worry about it after the first hit. But and then about the hip fire, I would what is it? I would make it deviate after like 2 or 3 shots, like, because there's no reason that you should be able to spray down 2 or 3 people in the same burst and get rewarded for none of it. You know what I mean? Like you're just spraying down people and you just get rewarded for doing anything. And then like a simple first couple shots of this hip fire are more accurate. Like that's all. That's all you needed. You didn't need to remove it entirely, because that would be the first thing that I would do, and probably just about it, because I don't think it needs much more than that. Because I mean, it's not innately a broken gun. It's just the catalyst is way too strong. At least that's what I think the biggest problem is. This is just it's
Yeah,
just
no,
the catalyst.
it's 100% the catalyst. For me to nerf the catalyst, it's similar to what you said. Like, first 3 hipfire shots are more accurate, and then after that you have the scout rifle deviation, and you have to wait a couple seconds in between bursts before you can keep hipfiring.
Yeah.
So this is where my own opinion comes in, where like I'd rather them see them nerf that gun into the ground and just change Cranial Spike from headshots to just kills, honestly, and reduce the stacks from 5 to 3.
Yeah.
So like, again, that's probably not what everyone wants to see, and it'll probably gut that gun. But to be fair, it's been the most dominant gun for the past 5 months since it came out. Since the Catalyst came out in what was that, like week 3 of Chosen?
Yeah. I think it could have been later. Like just a little bit later.
Because I'm pretty sure the quest came out week 2, and then the master mode came out the week after that. So either way, and you can't forget that Dead Man's Tell is free for all players. So literally any new player can just run Presage, run the master mode, get carried through the master mode.
It's not like the master mode,
and then just have
either.
The best gun in the game. Yep, it's just time. And if you have two other people on your team that know what they're doing, it literally doesn't matter how low level you are.
Literally, the only
So,
thing, in my opinion, that you need to know how to do in that mission is, like, the garbage chute, and that's about it.
yep, that's the only part of that mission that is like quote unquote hard.
Yeah, because, I mean, even the boss DPS is super free.
It's simple. It's straight up, especially with Anarchy, and especially with Anarchy being extremely strong this season, to say the least. Uh,
Breaching
yeah,
clear,
you
breaching
really
clear.
don't have to do anything. Yep, breaching clear is a perk that exists
Yeah.
for some reason. So on the topic of weapons, we're still here on
Okay, yeah.
weapons. Uh, probably the second biggest like issue is Igneous Hammer,
Oh, yeah.
especially like Adept Igneous Hammer.
Yeah.
So before I say anything, first of all, 120s are like I think it's a good buff for the 110 hand cannon that they got.
Mm.
Like it has made them relevant more than they've ever been. And I think it's honestly a good change. It's an interesting change. I remember back when it first got announced that 110s were gonna be turned into 120s and they'll have increased range and less drop off. So there was a guy in my comment section that said that just because 120s are gonna get buffed doesn't mean they're gonna be relevant.
Yeah.
And I read that comment and I was like, that's cool, but I've
Cool,
played
but
this
that's
game
cap.
for a very long time, and I know how this game works. Because usually when they do buffs like that, it's very overtuned.
Yeah.
I.e., the auto rifle buff back in season of the Worthy.
Yeah.
So
Where people would just run around
I knew
with,
that
you know,
gnawing
gnawing
hunger
and just
because
melting
it
people.
was free. It was free. You literally got it from Umbro Ingrams. The best auto rifle in the game you got for doing nothing.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, like I was saying, like I knew that they were gonna be strong, or like even Sturm felt great.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a good change overall. And a lot of the 120 hand cannons that they're not Igneous Hammer are quite strong. Like forward path is still not forward path. Steady hand is still just as strong as Igneous Hammer, but it just doesn't have the benefits as Igneous because it's not a trials weapon.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the biggest thing. Like, yes, season of the Splicer, they just nerfed the 120, so they have less drop off. But
They have more drop off.
they have more drop off. That's what I meant. But Igneous Hammers just ignores most of the rules of the game because it's a hand cannon. It's good close range, it's good long range, and because it's a 120 hand cannon, it's even better at longer ranges than medium range. So you kind of just sit there and like if you ever get ran at, like I run scout rifles mostly because I don't like hand cannons in this game. You just kind of get ran at all game from any range from an Igneous Hammer. And on top of that, Igneous Hammer Adept, there's Adept range on it. So you get an extra 10 range, so you have reduced drop off. And if you thought that wasn't bad enough, it rolls with like Kill Clip and Rampage and Swash.
Yeah.
So my question is, right? And of course this is rhetorical. Why does the best gun in the game get to have damage increase perks on it? When guns like Messenger, also a trials weapon, only gets kill clip as his damage increase perk.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand why so many of the weapons in the game that are already strong just get perks that make them strong without requiring any effort whatsoever. Like, if we're being real. It's, I just think it's a huge problem. Like, Steady Hand was even really problematic, and I know it's a 120, so it's not as bad anymore, but it's still, like, that rolled with Swash, and that's just insane.
True Prophecy also rolls with Swash.
And Explosive Payload,
arguably the best, and Explosive Payload, so it's technically better than Igneous Hammer.
On paper.
but on paper. But Igneous Hammer has not only does it get rapid hit, it gets kill clip, gets rampage. So any range on top of the adept mod, which I know again, getting an adept Igneous Hammer is not going to be for everyone. So like not it's not possible for
No,
everyone to
that's a
have them.
lie. That's
But
a lie. It's possible for anyone that wants to pay for it or earn it.
yes, but I'm talking about more so like you personally are playing and you're using your own skill
Oh
to
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
flawless to get an
That I
Igneous
don't have a
Hammer.
problem with people using it against me. Like I'm like, all right, he's a true gamer. He's worked
Mm-hmm.
hard to get that. But there's also
Yes,
that
but
part
yes,
in
you
my
can
brain
also
that's
pay
just like,
people
did he pay for it or did he earn it?
because we know a person, a part of our server, that has paid for a flawless run
Hmm.
and has a has a messenger adept.
Are we
Now, does
are
that make
we
him
like
any?
scolding them and are like completely against them as a person now? No. It's just something we
No.
personally wouldn't do.
Yep.
But I also think it's a little bit problematic for the game. But anyway, there's not really anything you can
But
do
yeah,
about that.
it's not really much you can do about it because it's again, you can if you want to pay somebody to play the game for you, that's fine. That's what you want to do. If that's how you want to spend your money. You're your own person. It literally does not matter. Where when we're talking more so, especially like for again, especially like for Igneous Hammer,
Hmm.
it's like yes, 120 hand cannon. Yes, why? Yes, it's a trials gun, so they have to make it good, but it does not need damage increase perks so that you can get two tapped from any range. Like it's kind of hard to justify the reason why they make Igneous Hammer the way that it is when it's fighting a high cal pulse rifle at long ranges and still winning.
Consistently. It's
Like
not
it
like it was a
consistently.
inconsistent once in a while thing. Like, oh, that guy's got a depth roll on it with range, so it's like I could see how that might potentially win. It's like, oh well, might as well die. Like,
All right, so sorry about that. We had to do a pause for a sec for reasons unknown. So we were talking about Igneous
reasons that cannot
Hammer.
be disclosed at this time.
Yeah. We were talking about Igneous Hammer. I honestly don't remember what I was talking about. Do you?
I think it was just more of how Igneous Hammer doesn't have the range drop off that the rest of the 120s do. And that's what's more problematic about it, and that's what makes it the enigma in the 120 nerf. Because,
Mm.
again, I really haven't seen a whole lot of issues with other hand cannons playing outside of the range where I thought they would. Like, for example, I feel like, especially True Prophecy, uh, I've still been killed by at least a decent amount, not as much when it was in its prime, I guess.
Mm.
But I mean, it's more of a all right. Yeah, I probably should have aimed better, more so than there was legitimately nothing I could do. However, I
Mm.
still get that feeling when I get beat by an igneous hammer a lot of the time because I really think that I should have probably outranged them just a little bit. Like it's
Mm.
especially when I'm using messenger or the rare times I've used like you know auto rifles or whatever. But I mean, it's just I feel like there's certain times where I get outpaced where I shouldn't have gotten outpaced, and that only happens with Igneous Hammer opposed to the rest of the 120s that were problematic a couple weeks
Mm.
ago.
Yeah. So. Eh, yeah. No. 100%. So I think like I agree with you 100%. Again, as someone that isn't really a fan of hand cannons, I can still appreciate them because I've used Hawkmoon and I've used like Thorn, and those guns are
Yeah,
like super
but those are
fun.
Chad hand cannons. Those are
Uh,
like elite hand cannons.
Elite hand.
Like those like opposed to where the meta is with hand cannons right now, I've definitely felt like a Hawk Moon, you have to do a lot more to get kills with it, opposed to what you would have to do with like Igneous Hammer and
It's
like
still a three tap, but
yeah, you could
for
still a
the
three tap, but
flashing.
its effective range is way more noticeable than a lot of hand cannons that I've used. And I
Mm.
use hand cannons sparingly, like when I feel like it. It's usually like It's usually about a good quarter to half of the games we play that I'm using a hand cannon, but it's always like Hawk Moon or what is it? Hawk Moon or like I wanted to run Nation of Beast for a while, but I just haven't yet. But it's more 140s and Palindrome and stuff like that.
Mm.
However, I I just feel like the times that I've used Igneous Hammer, it overperformed substantially. Like it was a big difference between literally any other hand cannon that I used.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
So
and it's
yeah.
and again a lot of the problem that comes for and why Igneous Hammer is the Enigma is because it's a trials weapon.
Hmm.
Now, just because it is a trials weapon innately doesn't make it good, i.e., the scholar. Like, if you're good with those type of scout rifles, then you're goaded and you're very skilled at the game. However, there is definitely a distinct difference between a scholar and an igneous hammer,
Hmm.
especially in some of the maps where you can't use scout rifles at all because all of the map is close range.
Exactly.
And again, like maybe a depth range or yeah, the mod of depth range isn't a problem. Like maybe I'm it's to me it occurs that it's a problem because Igneous Hammer is just so relevant all of the time and so just it just seems like it's just too effective all the time at any range and it doesn't really matter what you can do unless you have another hand cannon. You can't really stop it.
Yeah, or you get the drop on them. Like with a pulse, if you get one burst off and hit most of your shots before they know you're there, you might be able to win. You might be. You might be. But that's
Mm-hmm.
the only case that I've seen a lot of the times where I've beat Igneous Hammer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Like, and my biggest thing about like if they're gonna nerf it or something, like they first off they have to take the damage increase mods off of those guns,
Hmm.
like off of Igneous Hammer, because and you can say that just as well for Messenger, but you gotta remember Messenger only gets kill clip as its damage increasing perk. It's the only one.
And honestly, take that off of it if you want to. Make it fair. Just go ahead. Like that's the
If you
only
want
thing it gets, and if that takes Rampage and Kill Clip and Swash
swash,
off a Igneous Hammer, I will take that trade.
because for at least for Messenger, you're for the most part, like obviously, kill clip on a pulse rifle, any damage increase mod is excellent to have. But at the end of the day, Despo is kind of like the shit.
Yeah.
And the only reason Messenger can even compete with Igneous Hammer is because you have Desperado proc. So they literally cannot take it off, or else you're at a disadvantage anyway. Even with if they take Rampage and stuff off of it.
And I feel like that's one of the big pros and things that makes it a lot more viable in sixes is because like yeah, I only play sixes when I play IB, but anything that makes IB less insufferable is amazing. And Despo just helps you fight multiple people at the same time who either have Deadman's and Igneous Hammer or something to that degree, so you're already at a massive disadvantage. So, I mean, in any case, Despo just brings you up to the level of where the meta is right now in the Crucible. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's like it scales with the lobby. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Because Desperado with a Desperado proc messenger, it's one of the few guns that can actually um deal with people in rifts like effectively
Hmm.
because the damage just a bullet dump that you can put out like out DPSs the heal that
Yeah.
people have in rifts. And that's like a big thing. Like not a lot of guns could do like some auto rifles can do that. Like back in auto rifle meta, it was possible with gnawing hunger, but
Mm.
it's not. Especially like with hand cannons, it's not really a thing. So that's like one of the the biggest pluses for Despo. But again, Despo still requires you to get a kill, and not just a kill. Requires you to get a headshot,
Yeah,
precision
precision
kill,
kill
versus
on a high
uh,
impact frame. So I
on
mean,
a high impact frame that's slow, so you use it at longer ranges. Versus an igneous hammer that has freaking swash on it. You just punch a dude after you shoot him
or
twice.
shoot a dude, and it still gets enough to like two tap in some situations. Like,
Yep. As depending on the range, it one stack of swash from the clip that our friendly neighborhood PvP man showed us. One stack of a swash starts the two tap train.
yep. So you
And
don't
of
even need
course,
a punch, and if you're
yep,
on something like Titan or Hunter, because I think it activates off of melee abilities too.
yep. So
It's super
yep,
easy to get a like an ability melee kill. You just go in and shoulder charge somebody, or even better, you thunder crash down and get inertia override if you hit something, and then you can just two tap off of that and have a swashbuckler proc. Like, there's so many things that just enable swash to get activated in ways that swash stereotypically shouldn't get activated, and
yep.
it gets disproportionately stronger based on the weapon archetype that you have, and certain
Yes,
weapon archetypes just shouldn't get it.
because you
Like
gotta
I,
remember on certain guns, swash like in general on certain guns, swash is not that good in comparison to kill clip and rampage because you have to stack it up.
yeah,
But because Crucible is player versus player and it gets scaled, the damage you do gets scaled per player. Swash is just innately better in those situations than
yeah,
it
yeah,
is
yeah, and like
in any
anything
other.
else, because I mean, like swash on an auto rifle in PvE is pretty crispy. Like it's pretty good, but I mean, there's also better things that you're gonna want to do. And then again, like you can't slap swash on everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
swash has to be a very selective perk that only goes on certain weapons and certain archetypes, in my opinion. Like you can't just slap it on everything and think it's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm. And like I understand why the developers would add swash onto everything, or just like have swash as a perk that you can grab in the pool. It's because like think of bottom dollar. Now bottom dollar is another 120 hand cannon that is problematic, but not for the same reason that Igneous Hammer is. And like they
And not
kind of
as
fall into the
much.
same yeah, they fall into the same category, but definitely bottom dollar is a bit under. It's because bottom dollar has access to explosive payload.
Yeah.
And a lot and what you don't see as many bottom dollars is because first off, Gambit is a terrible game mode. And secondly, the other rolls on bottom dollar are just like not good.
Yeah.
They're just straight up not good. So the only viable god roll for it is explosive payload rapid hit.
Yep.
Now, if Igneous Hammer also had a trash perk pool, you would not see it as much as you do
Mm-mm.
because it's such a pain to farm because you only get one and you have to farm tokens, and if your loot pool for trials is diluted, much like mine is, you're not getting an Igneous Hammer.
Mm-mm.
But then you get events where literally every trials win that you get is an Igneous Hammer.
Yeah.
Shouts out to
Like
you, Season of the Chosen,
I
last
just
week.
feel like the biggest problems with Igneous Hammer are, as you said, the perk pool. Like it just has good perks or rolls or
Which
whatever you
is
want to
not
call
a
it.
problem. Like on paper, it's not a problem.
Mm-mm.
Any gun any new gun should have access to good perks.
But
However,
then when it gets shoved down your throat over and over and over
yep,
again, everyone gets access to attempt to get god rolls every single like week. It almost felt
yep,
like,
every
and we're
single
sitting
week,
here
it
like,
was
man,
almost
we want
every
and
single week had a chance for a depth.
yeah. And then the worst part about it is there were seasonal challenges that just straight up gave you Igneous
Gave
Hammer
you
for
Igneous
doing
Hammer.
nothing.
Yep,
like that was my biggest problem is there was just so much and so it was so ease of access the entire season and kind of shoved down your throat and like ruined kind of my trials experience near the end of season of the chosen because I just straight up did not want to play trials and because I wanted literally anything different. Like what I wouldn't have given for a summoner week. Like you know what I mean? Like or an Eye of Soul week. And I know we just got an Eye of Soul week, but I couldn't play
At the
for
time of recording
work
this, we did.
reasons. Yes, at the time of recording this, we just finished up the Eye of Soul weekend loot pool. But and I couldn't play for various reasons. But what I wouldn't have given for like a loot pool like that, however, we just kept getting Lamau, y'all want igneous hammers? And we're like, no. And then next week, Lamau, y'all want igneous hammers? It's just, it felt like it was getting shoved down your throat, and it was so easy of access, and it had such a good, like, roll table. Like, it was just, it. It's
Oh, because
it's the
you
perfect
can't
storm.
forget. Also forgot this, and I like it just hit me right now.
Mm,
Igneous Hammer. While a lot of people don't like Killing Wind or KW on their hand cannons, KW gives you mobility, handling, and range on kills. On
yep,
top, and it's in a different tree than Rampage, so you can
yep,
get a KW Rampage or KW Swash and have increased range because of the increased damage that you get from those damage increase perks. And basically the drop off gets even further away. So ranges where normally you'd be doing like 80 or something, it's still hitting for like 95, and there's not really much people can do about it.
yeah. It just feels like everything that should be nerfing this gun is not nerfing this gun because of the, like, rolls it can get. And that's the biggest problem with it, honestly. Because I think one of mine was like killing when moving target or killing when snapshot, something to that degree. Not even a range increase perk, and that thing was still destroying at range before the range nerf, and then it still hits just as hard in a lot of situations, and it just feels like it. It's I feel like all the 120s are in the same family, and then Daddy Bungie came home and said, all of you are grounded. You've been breaking all the vases in the house, and then Bungie went, except you, Igneous Hammer. I know you would do nothing like that. And then just didn't punish Igneous Hammer. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that is exactly the 120 nerf in a nutshell.
Yep. And it's
Oh,
only because Igneous Hammer is just built different. There's
yep,
nothing you can do about it. Because,
yep.
well, that's not true. It's not that there's nothing you can do about it. But that is more of a, again, what I said earlier about Deadman's is if there was more testing, more relevant testing on, especially on PC, with like Crucible scrims every day for like 3 or 4 hours, I'm sure there are some developers that would be sick and tired of getting beamed by Igneous Hammer across the map.
Yeah.
So why they decided that Igneous Hammer is allowed to stay in the state that it currently is, even with the quote unquote nerf. Because even with the nerf that came through, I honestly think Sturm Sturm has the most range. It flat out has the most range because it's base 92 with no range increase perks.
Yeah.
However, because it's an exotic, why would you ever run it? And that's what holds Sturm back. Versus Igneous Hammer, where you can just run that with Astral Horizon or the new Reese Walker, which with Iron Reach can give you like 80 plus range.
No, it can give you more. Mine has the same range as Duality, I think at 92.
92. A
Yes.
lightweight frame shotgun has
Yes.
92, and then you can
Yes.
also have an Igneous Hammer
Yes.
because it's in the energy slot.
See, I think any good kinetic weapon, like, I was talking about it yesterday. I was like, wow, they buffed Igneous Hammer again. Like, a good kinetic in, like, Ignition Code is another good kinetic special that is just insane because it can get slide shot and, like,
I
thrust.
think that's like the biggest thing is that it gets slide shot, which is
Yep.
stupid. But
And that's just another weapon as a reason to run Igneous Hammer. Like, Why would you run Sturm if you can just run a objectively better loadout in every way, shape, and form?
Yep.
That's two legendaries.
Yep.
That's two legendaries.
Like I don't even run exotics for the most part because I run Found Verdict. Usually for Crucible I run Found Verdict Messenger, and just my Trials rocket launcher. But
Yeah,
that's it. Like you don't need an exotic, but that just makes Igneous Hammer better because you don't need an exotic.
yeah. And I mean, I run exotics, but I mean, it's usually in my energy slot. Like, I usually run Duality or Lord of Wolves, and that's because it's anti-Felwinter's tech. But I mean, that's just my personal preference, and I don't feel like I feel like that is still not an objectively better loadout than uh if I decided to chuck on an Igneous and a Reese Walker. Like, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'd be stronger if I did that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Or if you chucked on a Felwinter, because that's still.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm like, you could check on literally so much different things. Like, there was one dude running around in a Pacifica game that I played yesterday with Sturm Fellwinters, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of scummy, but I mean, it's also Sturm, so can I actually be mad? Like, at least it wasn't a true prophecy with explosive payload,
Yep.
which rolls in the first tree.
Yep.
But I mean, that's just my outlook on it. Is I'm just kind of like, Sturm, I don't feel bad again about getting killed by, because it's Sturm and it's a cool gun that actually is balanced as a 120. Like,
Yep.
and you don't see it all the time. So a 120 that literally isn't Igneous Hammer or True Prophecy is like, wow, that exists.
Or
Like,
Forward Path.
I.
Can't forget that one. Forward Path being on the lower end of the spectrum, but
Yeah,
it's still an obnoxious 120 hand cannon. And like, of course,
yeah,
this segment again. The biggest thing about this video and just like the segments is like, yes, we might be talking about one thing, but it's an overarching umbrella over all of the
yes.
different like issues that are in the game. And it is, I
Like,
can't
and
even say that that is issue. It's just like problematic stuff that if they just honestly, if they just reduce the perk pool and just like remove the damage purse on Igneous Hammer and lock out some of the adept mods on certain guns, like you don't need adept range on a 120 hand cannon because that it's super toxic and obnoxious. Like you don't need a counterbalance stock or a depth counterbalance stock on a pulse rifle. Then I'd be fine with it. Like I'd be more inclined to not complain about Igneous Hammer, but where it stands now, it's still arguably the best gun in the game.
Like, and you know what I just thought of that kind of makes a lot of sense is Igneous Hammer was built for PvP, and that's
Yeah.
why it's built different. There's not a single roll combination that I would want on that gun that I would run in PvE. Like, but there's like some steady hands and some true prophecies that I would have kept for PvP or
Yep.
PvE. But I mean, it's just
Like all of the guns can be ran for PvE except PvE except for Igneous Hammer,
yep,
because Messenger gets
one
Despo
for all.
rapid hit. It also gets one for all.
One for all is disgusting on that gun.
Yeah.
I love one
It
for all on that gun.
uh-huh. ISO gets outlaw box breathing. Summoner gets overflow dragonfly. Like there's so many good perks on the other guns, but or even freaking the sword. Scholara's Scar gets chain reaction on a sword.
Which
So
arguably you could say, wow, in PvP that would be cool because it would chain to different enemies. But I mean, how often is that gonna happen?
yes.
Realistically, that is gonna be one or two clips that you see on like the front page of Reddit. Like, if we're being honest, it is not gonna be a consecutive thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I'm tripping and everybody runs around in huge groups when
Nope,
people get
because
heavy ammo.
you got to remember those swords also have their tracking for it is not as strong.
Yeah,
So especially in PvE when you can just jump over stuff and like just dodge it, or rolling it to turn off any tracking that was on you.
yeah. Which
So
only one class can do, but
mm,
it is a thing that happens.
yes, so like it's just again the biggest thing is Igneous Hammer is just the best option all of the time. Like there's never a bad time you run Igneous Hammer
Not at
because
all.
it's an
Except
energy
if you're playing
slot.
PvE.
Yeah, but even then, it's still an Igneous Hammer is gonna kill whatever's standing in front of you.
I mean, yes, but I've tried it in PvE, and I was just severely disappointed. Like I was like, wow, I could literally be running anything else. Like you know what I
Mm.
mean? It's such a harsh juxtaposition, and especially with Unstoppable Hand Cannon last season, it
Mm.
was really easy for me, and Anti-Barrier Sniper, it was really easy for me to chuck it on, because I could just chuck on Succession and fucking have Unstoppable Barrier down, ready, going.
Mm.
And it was just, it did not hit as hard as I wanted it to, and it felt like it should have hit harder based off of how it did in PvP, but it it just didn't, and I found that hilarious to me. Like, and mine's kind of like a good role for PvE too, but again, it just doesn't have PvE roles, so it's not good in PvE. At least from what I saw.
Mm. I just totally fine. For me at least, no. So that's gonna be the last thing for Igneous Hammer. Like we can go on for about Igneous for
Yep,
another 40 minutes, but we're just gonna stop here.
we're not gonna do that.
The last thing, honestly, for me when it comes to guns is probably just like Felwinchers. Like Felwinchers, honestly, if you really want to nerf Felwinchers, don't take off quick draw. Just fucking take off opening shot.
Yeah,
Just take off opening. That's it.
I mean,
Slide
yeah,
shot doesn't matter. It's just opening shot
yeah,
because when it comes to especially for shotguns, slide shot, uh, opening shot is just a better option all the time because it's always active all the time and you don't have to
yeah.
sprint or anything. So
Wait,
you just get that increased range.
wasn't isn't opening shot in the second tree though? And slide shots in the first tree?
Yep.
So yeah, why would you like? Why wouldn't you run both? Is what I'm saying. Like
No,
that's
that
what.
that's what I do. I run
Yeah.
both, but people run quick draw just for like the quick,
Oh yeah,
quick
but I mean it's
hot
like.
swap, and then opening
But I mean
shot
it's like
carries the rest of it.
I've honestly thought that it felt stronger with uh slide shot
Yep.
instead of opening shot or
Yep.
instead of quick draw. It's
100%.
stronger.
I think it just
So
depends on our. It's because of our playstyle where we're not hot swapping a Felwinters a bunch of the time. We're
yeah,
just we have like when we were gonna use it, we just have it out. And then the problem with opening shot because it's so strong with quick draw is that it gets carried by the range. So even if they were kind of far away, they still get freaking deleted because of opening shot. It's just straight up better
yep,
than slide shot can be. Like even though slide shot reloads your gun, opening shot is just a stronger choice.
yep.
90% of the time. So that's it about Felwinchers. That might gut the gun, but it's still useful in PvE because I only run slide shot Vorpal on it, and it's still a monster. So
Yeah.
that's kind of just
And
it.
I mean, I've used it in PvE a lot. We've both used it in PvE a lot. And it feels really good in PvE. But I mean, it's just in PvP it's too oppressive. And it's one of those things where it's like you need to actually test how each perk like interacts with each activity, and it's again not enough people, not enough testing.
Yep.
At least IMO.
Because I'm 100% not letting slide shot opening shot go through.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Not at all. Because that's just asking for problems. Even quick draw, I'm not letting go through. You don't need quick draw because you can just put mods on your arms. Because quick draw
Yeah,
stacks with that.
yeah. And I mean, the the funniest thing is it's just it's already its own frame. It doesn't need a whole lot of crazy support. Like it is already the best frame in the game because the pack is so consistent all the
Yep.
time.
It is the most consistent shotgun in the game. And there'll be a lot of times where we just play IB or play any Crucible, and we have a shotgun, and we're just like, if it was Fellwinters, it would have killed. That's
Yep.
even true for Astral Horizon. Even because it's Astral Horizon is an aggressive frame, and it's not a pack shot, so even that can be less consistent than Fellwinters.
And like that's why I run Duality and Lord is because I feel like those are the only things that compete with Fellwinters, aka the anti-Fellwinters tech, and those are exotics. Like so I can't like those are exotics. And that's what's crazy to me is that's what I feel like is on par at least with Fellwinters, if not weaker, because you still have to hit the fucking duality headshot, or you have to beat them to the punch on with Lord of Wolves a lot of the time.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
mean, I just feel like it's certain combinations of perks that just don't get tested enough
Mm.
in PvP that just straight up shouldn't be on weapons.
Mm.
And that's pretty much at least my main thing is just it's not enough is getting tested.
Yep. Uh. Yeah. No. That's kind of just it, and that's like for most weapons. Like, I don't understand why they allowed ignition code to get slide shot. That seems kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the last thing we're gonna get off weapons because we've been
Hmm.
talking about weapons for like the past hour.
Oh, there's one more weapon I want to bring up, but
Okay,
it
okay.
won't take long.
Because if you know anything about slide shot gives you range, and if you know anything about perks that increase your range, especially for like rocket launchers and stuff like that, it doesn't increase the range, it just increases the velocity
Hmm.
and does all the other stuff that it would do. So the fact that ignition code just gets free velocity for sliding, it's kind of not okay.
In addition to Thresh, like I feel like that on with Thresh is way too strong. Like simply because you can farm your super all the time with it because you just get rewarded for sliding and shooting and sliding and shooting and sliding and shooting all the time because it's a grenade launcher. And what are people gonna do? What are people gonna do if you slide around a corner and pre-fire with your with your ignition code? But yeah, that was really that was the thing that happened yesterday that maybe
Mm.
it pushed
It
us
was
over
it was
the edge
happening
a
a
couple
lot
times.
more often than it really should have, and
Mm-hmm.
there's not really much you can do to punish them because it's a grenade
Mm-hmm.
launcher.
Mm-hmm.
They're just gonna keep sliding and shooting it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last weapon that I wanted to bring up was Heir Apparent, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because my thing is it's like, yeah, you shouldn't win against heavy most of the time, but my thing is it's just Heir Apparent is way too strong because even if you like super it, you don't break the shield unless it's an arc super. That's what's crazy to me. Like I've hit it with Dawn Blade shots, all of that, and it's just tanked it, and just gone. Yeah, and come on, bring another one. You know what I mean? And I feel
Mhm.
like that's because the catalyst didn't get tested enough, and wasn't tested in Crucible enough, so it got through, and it's super strong for no reason. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know 100% what you mean because it happens all the time. It it it's just not great. So, yeah. Let's see. What else do we want to see? Is there anything else for you when it comes to guns or
When it
whatever?
comes to guns, nah. That's really it for me. Is that very small list, and maybe Salvo, but I don't feel as bad
I no,
when I get
Salvo
killed by
isn't as
Salvo.
problematic as freaking ignition mode,
Mm-mm.
honestly, because you
Because
can
it doesn't
dodge
get
it.
slide shot, and you can't run it with Igneous
Can't.
Hammer. So
Yep.
double nerf.
Yeah. Uh, Probably the other biggest thing is well, here's what I want to do. We got off guns. I wanted to more so. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the maps because honestly, my biggest problem with the just a map pool in general. First of all, if you don't know, it's been 2 years since we've gotten a map,
Mm,
which is in a game that is supposed to support its PvP community is insane.
yeah.
That it's been 2 years since we've gotten a Crucible map, and
Like, could you
like
imagine if Siege from what is it, year 4 now? Is Siege for the
uh
first 2 years or year 6?
yeah, yeah, we're in six.
If uh if Siege just went through 2 straight years of every time they released an operator, they didn't release a map with the operator.
A map and or a map rework.
Like, they just didn't add any maps, and it's still the core maps from the base game.
Mm.
No one would be playing that game still. Like, it'd be. I mean, people would still probably be playing it, but it would be way super played out, and
Oh.
like the pro strats and everything would even be more rigid, and just it'd be more power creepy and all that. But anyway,
Mm.
like I can't think of any other like first person shooter that goes that long without a new map. You know what
I
I
mean,
mean?
I guess you could say like, well, I don't play Overwatch, so you'd have to speak on this. But like,
Well, it's not 2 years, but it's a longer cycle. Like
mm,
Bungie could follow the cycle that Overwatch does, where it's like maybe every 6 to 8 months or whatever.
mm, yeah, but that's
But
still
again, I
yeah.
don't know exact specifics for Overwatch, but that might be a generous timeline, especially with OW2 in development. But it definitely isn't like 2 years. Like I think Overwatch like original just got a new map
Mm,
not too long ago. So
yep.
I mean, nothing has been nothing that I've played in a long time has
Oh,
been
yep.
this dry for maps.
2 years, and they removed maps, and they removed maps. That's don't forget, they removed maps in that 2 year span and
Yep.
added no new maps. So for like biggest thing, right when it comes to map, because this is like my even before the weapons, it's just the state of the fact that there is no. I shouldn't say there's no interesting maps. There, like Widow's Court, fun map. It's great. You do play Widow's Court. Uh, what's funny?
Necklace, Jab 4.
Yeah,
That's about
Dexter's
it.
Jab 4. You know what's funny? For sixes, at least, Fortress. Even though I do not like Fortress, Fortress has been going up in my tier list of maps, especially for sixes because there's just so much more space. And why I wanted to bring up maps is because a lot of the maps are just claustrophobic. Like, and especially considering that that they were releasing stasis and none of the maps that they took out or none of the maps that they left in after taking out so many got revamped.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's such a pain to deal with a lot of the time because a lot of those maps are, like I just said, claustrophobic, and you can legit get caught on literally you can get caught on the environment because for reasons there's boxes on the floor that are just there for aesthetic. You can get like half of your abilities can get caught on trees and or corners that you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. We had some issues with rent,
All right.
with
So
rent and the hard
we're talking
drives.
about maps, right? We're gonna talk about all of these great maps and how we haven't had a map in 2 years, right? So, yeah, no, this is just a fresh cut. Just so you know, we we had some issues. So we're yeah. So when it comes to map, like especially for like the new abilities and
Mm-hmm.
like stasis and all that, the fact that there hasn't the maps that they left in the game have not been adjusted to accommodate for
Mm-hmm.
the new extremely powerful abilities that they are and or were and still are. Does it? Yo, that don't make a lick of sense to me, especially not from a developer standpoint. Like, you you gotta do something. We can't just let for example, right? Let's talk about Burnout. We all know Burnout. That's probably one of the worst maps in the game. But for Burnout, right? There's the choke point between the two sides of the map,
And let's not even talk about where
and
the
where there's a little
flags are,
hallway. And if you get caught in there
because
by literally
that's
any stasis ability, you just die. You don't even get an option.
not
You just die. You get Shatter Dove, you get Titan Slid through, even you can get Warlock meleeed, you just fall
Oh yeah,
over.
yeah.
And the reason yeah. It's also not the flags aren't great, but that's again to me personally,
Mm-hmm.
Control is not the premier game mode, so I'm never really worried about where the flag spawn, but like definitely make it
Yep.
any bigger. Like even the spawn points don't work half the time because you die in a fight, spawn on the other side of the map, and the entire
Mm-hmm.
enemy team spawns where you are, and you just have to sit there and either run away or fight them. You have no options. You're just sitting there like, yep, I guess I'll die.
Yeah.
Like for 6v6 or even 3v3s, the only maps that really have space are Convergence, Fortress, which again has been going up in my tier list of maps because at least that map you
Mm-hmm.
have any. There's only 3 choke points in that map, by the way. There's only 3.
Mm.
There's the tunnel to C flag. There is the tunnel from C flag to heavy. That's the one. Then there is the behind the B flag that choke from C to B flag. And I think the only other choke point in that map is where the castle is. There's only 3
Mm-hmm.
choke points in that map, and you have all the space in the universe to do whatever you
Rotate,
want.
adjust.
So
You can
why
literally just play a better
aren't
game
more
when you
maps
have
like
more
that?
space.
Just have space to run around.
Like,
Even in 3v3s,
like
you having that
one
extra
of the games
space
that I
is
played a
such
lot
a
before I
benefit
played
because you're not just
Destiny,
locked down in one
when I
area.
was
You
in
can
my
actually make
youth,
plays, make
was
moves. You
CS:GO.
can do anything.
And CS:GO had some of the best maps that I had ever played. Like Dust 2, Mirage, there are choke
Mm.
points,
Mm.
but then there's also massive amounts of space, and there's not a lot of stuff in the choke points. It's open, like side to side cover, very open middle areas. Like
Mm.
if you get caught lacking, you get caught lacking, but you can also manipulate the map to your advantage a lot easier than you can in Destiny. You know what I mean? So I feel like... Oh, yeah. Aesthetics. Yeah.
Yes, because you can get caught on literally nothing. Like boxes that are
Yeah,
part of
pretty much.
the aesthetic of the map, because that's something that is to be considered. Like why?
Yeah.
Why is that a thing? Like I'm literally
Guess
running away from
that's...
a super and I
Yeah.
can't run away because
I
there's a
guess that's how
freaking
I want to die in my
because there's a
PvP game
box
modes.
on the floor.
Yeah.
Literally, a box on the floor stopped me from effectively getting away from a super. And we're just like, yeah, I guess that's cool. What am I to do but die? Hmm. So, yeah, like, you gotta, first of all, we have to have more
Yeah.
support, like a team dedicated to maps. And you can say, well, Bungie's an independent company now. They can't just spend money on people from all over just bringing maps through. And I can say this: they have outsourced raids before,
Yeah.
so why can't
Just
they
like a
just
small bucket of
like
maps. It
ask
doesn't even need to
an
be like a
Activision,
whole
not an Activision,
roster
a
at once.
Treyarch
Just
or a
a small
Infinity Ward
bucket, start
or
phasing out
somebody
some of
that
the
makes maps
garbage maps.
for 6 people on the map to make a couple maps in the theme of the game. Like, mm,
I mean, yeah.
because there's really only I want to say 5 good maps. Uh, like Jav, obviously. To me, that's the best map in the game. Jav, Endless Veil, uh, freaking what is the other map? Endless Veil, Distant Shore was just a
People
reskin
give it
D1
credit
map.
for, honestly. In my opinion, too.
Endless Veil, Distant Shore.
Oh, yeah.
What is the other map that I'm thinking of? Fortress, honestly, I'm putting Fortress up there because
Mm-hmm.
it's not terrible. It's a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better now than it was in like vanilla D2, solely because there's space, and that's like the biggest thing. Convergence, which is another reskin D1 map, and Dead Cliffs and not 6v6. Which, because I have to say that it has to be not 6v6, may already
Other than
puts it on
no, we
a
don't want to.
less viable
We don't
map
want
list,
to
but
make sense with our map pool because
maps
Dreaming
like
City's still
Burnout,
in the map, but
not
where did
itchy.
Citadel go?
Both Titan maps, which canonically in the story, both those planets were deleted, so why it's still in the game, we don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes, even though Citadel was not a good map, that map was a bad map. It was still better.
Yep.
Than Pacifica for 6v6 because you had space. That's like the biggest thing. All of the maps in the pool right now are just so claustrophobic.
Range. That's the biggest thing. You just always have your range.
It's so easy
exactly
to just get like ran at or get caught lacking because of how close all the maps are. And on top, and because the maps are just close, you know what you can do? You can just run around with your igneous hammer and just like do whatever you want. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You're always at advantage. And there's nothing anyone on the enemy team can do about it. You just get blasted. And if you are an igneous hammer user, great, it's great for you because you literally don't have to do anything.
Well, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to be objective about.
You just have advantage
like,
all the
it's
time.
only a few things that are causing problems.
Which
if we're being
Again,
honest.
I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because I'm really trying to be objective about the just like where the game is now and like just the state of it. But like, dude, yeah,
Yeah, that shit would be clean as fuck.
mm, yeah. But like,
That's a good
come on,
question.
man. Like we got override and we got the expunge mission. Like you can make a map in the expunge place. Like you like. Oh,
It's more
okay.
for sixes. I
Clean.
like
You
it in
know another
threes,
map they
but
brought back that was reskin? Anomaly. What? Why? Like I could understand Cauldron.
B is
Cauldron,
in the
like
worst
it might not
spot
be everyone. I
ever.
know you're not a fan of
Like,
Cauldron for 6v6,
B
but
is
I still
so
enjoy it.
bad on fucking
I'm just
Cauldron,
weird.
dude. And Anomaly, it's kind of
Like
alright,
it
but...
makes sense. That map makes
Sorry.
sense, and it's not a terrible map. But Anomaly is just, it's just ass all the fucking time. Here's a here's a quick anecdote. Bro, it's out in the open. Here's a quick anecdote about Anomaly. Three freshly shaven men trying to go take on Trials of Osiris for the
And
first
then
time.
one freshly
They don't know what
shaven
they're
man
getting into.
stopped
They
playing
boot up
Trials for a very
Anomaly.
long time.
And they're like, I'm so ready to play Trials of Osiris with my friends. And you know what happens? They just get beamed around corners by Hardlight. And there's nothing they can do about it. Now, you might say to yourself, yes, yes. Then you might say to yourself, well, it's your fault. The auto rifles, you should have played better against auto rifles. What are you supposed to do, right? In a shit map.
It doesn't
with
even
a
matter
gun
if you
in
crouch
its
lower half
prime
the time.
That is
Because
doing
most people
that is
like,
doing
can't control
double the amount
recoil
of damage
enough
of
to
any auto rifle in the
consistently,
game
like,
because it
you know what I mean?
reflected
Most
off
people
of a
just kind
surface.
of just go for it. You know what I mean? Especially with hard light, you
And you
just
can be
kind of
like, hey, you should
spray
have
and hope
crouched
for
it.
the best.
But they can just aim lower and bounce it back into your head.
How are you supposed to outplay that? How are you supposed to outplay random at that point? Like, that's what it gets to for me with hard light. Is just how are you supposed to outplay random?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like again, but that is a map that they consciously added into the game because they thought it'd be good for the game. Well, not that they'd be good. For the theme of the expansion, they thought it'd be good. And we're just sitting there like, but why? But like no one asked for this. Like you can just leave if you want to reskin some maps. Why don't you reskin some of the bigger maps in the game? And it, for me at least personally, the claustrophobia has not been a problem in the game until Stasis came out because there's just so much lockdown all the time. And of course, Stasis got nerfed for various reasons. But that's an overarching issue that has
there's no reason why
been
the map pool
revealed
has been
with
this
the
dry.
map pool,
And I mean, I
with the
get
state of the map pool because
Bungie
because
just
of
got
Stasis. So that's a
like
good thing
a
that
year
Stasis.
or two ago, right?
That's something
like,
that Stasis brought.
Was that 2 years?
But like,
you about
really,
with the
we have to wait 2 years before we get a new map.
So, but yeah, there's no longer the excuse they're just an independent company. If we're being honest, there's just not that excuse anymore.
In actually in a couple months it'll be 2.
Yeah. Because I mean, Vault was Pog. Vault is Pog.
If they're able to reskin, revamp freaking
and we just got
Vaulted
raid
Glass
challenges
and still maintain
the recording of today.
its funness and its glory,
But
then there's no
So it's
reason
gonna keep
that
getting
we should
even
have no
better,
maps in
and
the
I'm looking
game.
forward to it. So I mean, there's no reason why we just can't
Honestly,
get good D1 maps back that are
and
just
it still is.
built for D2. Like, if that makes sense. It's just,
Yep.
there's no excuses anymore. It just needs to happen. Or, being honest, I'm just gonna really have such a distaste for Crucible. It's
Yep. Mm. Hmm. Yeah, and of course, there's upcoming Crucible changes coming next season, and hopefully some of the stuff that we talked about gets changed. Because by the way, there's supposed to be a Dead Man's Nerf for season 14,
even though there's
season of the Splicer, but they don't know what to do with it yet, which is insane to
yeah,
me. Just a person that has put in
yeah,
over 3,000 hours in the game, that the best gun in the game, and you have no
yep.
options for how to tone it down. And we talked about Dead Man's for about a half an hour, and we're like, yeah, no, this is what we do. Best gun in the game for 5 months, by the way. So, the same thing, the same principle just applies to most things, like maps, abilities, and all of that. It
Yeah,
We would
in
like
a
some
major
fresh
way.
new content
Like,
in order to like really experience the game, because battlegrounds have breathed new life into the game. Hell, even overrides have
exactly.
breathe
And
new life into the game as
no, not
well.
at all. And I mean, I feel like,
But
especially
in a
with
major way. But
players like
there's a
myself,
whole
I find
community of
myself
people that enjoy playing
more and
Crucible
more
that
in
just get the shaft
this kind
all
of,
the time
I want
because
to
they play
get better at
Crucible and they
PvP, but
don't play
also
PvE content
it's
as much,
such a, there's so much
which
that
is
just
not fair to
discourages
them.
me from trying and committing myself, because it's just like, well, this is just how I should play the game. And it's like I don't find it fun yet. You know what I mean? Like I don't find it enjoyable, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to spend my time as much doing things that I don't find enjoyable. Like I sit down and play Trials because Trials is Trials. And I sit down and play Iron Banner because Iron Banner is Iron Banner. But I find myself having a hard time playing Crucible in between those times because I just don't find it enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's a personal thing, but I feel like if the maps
Mm-hmm.
and a lot more of how Crucible was built on would be more enjoyable and would incline me more to play Crucible
Mm-hmm.
if the maps were good and if it wasn't like, oh my god, we're on burnout again. Like, if it wasn't like, oh, are we gonna have a good game based on the map? You know what I mean? So that's my take on maps. Is it's just there's a there's too many bad maps, not enough good maps, and it's way too easy to determine how a game's gonna go based off of the
Mm-hmm.
map alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because of, yes, things like such ease of spawn camping. Like Midtown is a prime example of that. Midtown should have cover on on the spawn near A. Like it really
If
should,
you
but it's
based on the
all the
spawn
covers in the back, and then
cave.
there's just no man's land in between A and your spawn, and you can just get memed on multiple
Mm-hmm.
times trying to leave your spawn by a sniper at heavy ammo. And it's even worse with Cloud Strike in the game because you spawn in, your buddy that walked a little bit
I forgot it.
forward because he didn't know that there was a sniper, gets headshotted and kills you, who is still in your respawn animation. So, I mean, that is one of the extremes, but it does happen more than I would like to admit, or more than I guess Bungie admits to.
I forgot about Midtown.
But
I love
yes,
that map.
that's just my personal take on where the map pool is right now.
Yeah,
And like the thing
it
is
does
it's like you
happen.
look at Siege and stuff. Like I brought Siege up earlier, but like I the map rotation pool changes
Mm.
every season. I would love something like that in Destiny. If we got like
Yeah, that's it.
a good map rotation each season to an extent or whatever, or within a
Mm.
certain period of time every other season. Something like that, just like a commitment of map focus and map rotation would be great. So that's the end of my take on
Mm.
maps. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, feel like I
Yep.
feel like a lot of the abilities have been tuned down that were problematic.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
100%. Thank you.
I feel like
Uh,
top
do you have anything
trees
else, anything you'd
it's
like
way
to
more fun,
bring up?
but
Because
I
I
feel
know
like it's the only thing Warlock has
you were
to
talking
compete.
about cough abilities early. Mm. It's gonna, yeah, no, but it's gonna get nerfed. So I don't want to say it's confirmed,
Yeah.
but there is a high likelihood that starting next season, season 15, that Top Tree Dawn is gonna get nerfed.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
you
know
said
what the
something
changes
earlier about
are.
like a little while ago
However,
or a couple
if
days
I
ago or
were to
whatever
change something
about
about Top Tree Dawn, it's
the
definitely the
dash
in-air
cooldown
accuracy off
changing.
of burning up, because I think that's a bit too strong as is, but the rest of the kit is fine.
You said like take it down to one dash and put it on like a cooldown or whatever. Help.
Yeah. Like dang, what was the? I think if they change it so it's like one.
Because it's the only
Oh
movable
yeah.
tool.
Yeah. Take it down to one dash and then just have a little bit a longer cooldown on it. That'll definitely. You can take it down to one dash and just have the dash be a bit longer. Because remember, like air dashing for a warlock is strong, but it's not OP because you can still
Mm-hmm.
read the dash. Yes, you can still read the dash, and like I try to make a play off of aggressively dashing, and I
Yeah.
got memed on. So like there are options. It just depends on the skill of the player. Like I had somebody try to do the warlock air dash shuffle where they dash left right, and then to get you to waste half your bullets, and then as soon as he landed, he just died because he didn't have any more mobility.
Yeah, and
So it
yeah,
again,
but
it's
I mean,
it
no, I feel like
finding as a warlock
okay,
player, because I can only speak
I
about
feel
being a
like
warlock. Finding the
this
balance between
is moving more
the
into
air dashing stuff is
I think
fine.
fundamental differences
Because they actually take
between
skill.
the
It
three
just
classes that just
there's
can't
not
be
really much
avoided
you can
now.
do when somebody's
But
like
I
30
feel
feet in the
like
air.
if a warlock is 30 feet in the air, you either know he's on Top Tree Dawn, where he's gonna stay relatively in the same spot, or if not in the same spot, or he's gonna try to dash, which you can read really easily. And
Mm.
a lot of the time, yeah, and a lot of the time the dash, you can just shoot him through the dash, and and if they're in the air, boosting up, it's really
Mm.
inaccurate to shoot,
Because the only
and
way to get out of the air
I
is
don't
to
think you
dash.
can
Because
shoot. Well, yeah, when can you shoot on top tree? Like,
mm.
and that's because the
unless they have heat rises. So you can shoot while you're floating through the air, like as you're going through. Like there's not the effect like the other warlocks. That's like the only one that you can shoot. Give me 1 second.
but no,
One
I feel
second, right
like
with it.
the big difference is that's on one subclass, yeah. And the thing
Yeah,
about
that's
that
only
one
one subclass.
subclass is it's probably gonna get nerfed, and it's the one subclass on the one
Mm-hmm.
class. But the problem I feel like comes in is just fundamental differences. How like Titans and Warlocks can't shoot through their jumps unless they have an ability or an exotic on. Yet Hunters can,
Yep.
simply
Lion
because their
Rambids
jump
or
is an activation and not an active ability. Because you just get a boost of a certain amount of height, and then you just that's it. That's the bar. Like that's your jump. It's not like an active glide or a burst. It's simply you tap your jump and you get a boost. And since that's the way it works, you don't have the not jump penalty, but you don't have the same negation of the rest of the classes because of your jump. So that encourages let me jump 30 feet in
mm,
the air and uh, spray you down way more on hunters than it does on any other class, and that's just purely because of how the jump is coded in the game. And I think that's inherently a little weird to me, and it causes, I think, problems in the game. Because, like, Top Tree Dawn, yes, you
mm-hmm.
can shoot while you're flying or whatever, but it
Unless you have heat rises, you still
exactly,
have
and yes,
in-air
hunters have the same
penalties.
in-air penalties, but I feel like it's not as much. And I feel like, what is it? Icarus Grip just says Lamau a lot of the time. And yes, it says the same thing about Top Tree Dawn, but the overarching theme is we're talking about Top Tree Dawn against all Hunter subclasses. Like, that's the biggest thing that I want to come out of this, is it's just basic fundamental differences that I feel hurt the game more than they help the game. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that's my bar or first bar about abilities right now. Is it's just I don't know. I feel like there's clear imbalances on on abilities, but I feel like that is also brought up in other areas and like the power levels picked up in different spots with each class. You know what I mean? But in
Mm-hmm.
other situations it's very clear that I'd rather have a certain ability over another ability. You know what I mean? But that
Mm-hmm.
may just be me. But it another thing is it's just I feel like a lot of the subclasses that I play are Solar and Void, and I feel like even though Arc did get a lot of love
Mm-hmm.
recently with Arc Week, I feel like a lot of the Arc subclasses,
Mm-hmm.
at least on lock, are very. Other than Chaos Reach, is very just kind of mid. And
I mean, I of course if
yeah,
you enjoy Ionic Blink with the Crown Tempest, it's viable. It I'm personally don't. Well, I my only problem with Arc is that that entire
yeah,
archetype is just frail, and I don't enjoy playing it because of its fragility. Like anything
yeah.
breathes at you, you just fall over, and no amount of Arc Souls or extended healing
Yeah.
drips is gonna save you. It's gonna
But
it's gonna die.
no, I just feel like this class disproportionate favoring, and then there's just I don't know what. I guess it would be like elemental type I guess that's how you'd be phrasing it. Like certain supers are more catered to than other supers. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
supers get
Yeah.
more forgotten than they get worked on as they should get worked on. Like I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
as viable running what is it, middle tree on a lot of like middle tree commander on what is it, on Titan. I just feel like it needs a little bit more love in Crucible, but I don't think it needs much. I just think like they need to, since they can start balancing things between Crucible and Vanguard. This is like really drawn out, but it's like this is the
This
prime
is like
time
the
to
prime
start fine
time.
tuning every super subclass in a way that makes them all viable, but there's still that skill component of you have to make the super. You can't get carried by the super. And I feel like it's either you get carried by the super or you
Mm-hmm.
have to do a lot of extra stuff to make a super viable. At least
Mm-hmm.
that's what that's what I'm feeling a lot more than I have in the past, especially since and with stasis.
Mm-hmm. Now
Yeah,
you want to talk about getting carried by a super?
exactly.
You have a walking
A
tether.
sentient tether.
Yeah, yeah.
Sentient
A
walking tether.
sentient walking tether. That still doesn't go away when they
Tether
die, which
doesn't, but I
is
mean, you can just say
silly.
Lamau and not.
You
Yeah.
can shoot it though.
And my other favorite thing, you can just say Lamau and not look at it. And not go towards it.
Yeah.
But that might just be
Mm-hmm.
me.
Well, you can say there's a certain person that would also say the same thing about Stasis
It,
Stasis Hunter Super. Just don't look at it and walk
yes,
away.
however, comma, it is nowhere near as oppressive now as it was literally 2 weeks ago. Like
Oh
it
yeah,
was
no, 100%.
such.
Not being able to use
Yes,
any
now
mobility
that I
at
can
all is kind
actually,
of a death sentence.
compete and go, oh, I can dash out of this instead of getting literally touched by it and then just having to accept death because I know I can't like move out of it, and if I get any form of like more slow, I'm just like dead to the silence and squall because it's just gonna chase me because it's tasted
Mm.
blood and it's just gonna follow me. At
Mm-hmm,
least in
mm-hmm.
my opinion. Now I can like get away. So now I understand. Just don't look at it and go away. But before it was clearly just imbalanced. And the the funniest thing is if you think this is like cap or not true, literally look at the meta now that stasis has gotten beaten into the ground at like as it should have because it was way too overtuned in a couple places. But it's just now there's tethers and arc staffs and golden guns and then like there's so many warlocks. Like I'm running around on blink because blink is now super strong because it's just Lamau. You can do whatever. But it's just there's so many different subclasses and it's like I've seen more molten hammers and more like fists of havoc than I saw with like thunder crashes, but I've seen more thunder crashes. I've seen thunder crashes, I just haven't seen the same amount of thunder crashes that I did when stasis was a thing because I feel like you either went stasis or what is it, you either went stasis or code of the missile, at least in my opinion. In a lot of the games we saw that,
Mm.
or at least I saw that that was the case, but I may have only been looking for those. But I just feel like now the meta is a lot more lively and different than it was like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, before the stasis changes.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I've noticed, and it's people are actually using supers that I haven't seen in a while, and I have to remember how to play against because I've gotten ingrained in so many people using stasis in so many different matches that I have to assume everyone's on stasis. Because I
Mm-hmm.
can't like afford to walk around a corner half the time and just get stasis walled and shattered over, a fucking penumbral blasted a lot of the time, like, or shiver striked or whatever that, like, whatever the insta freezes are gonna be on each class, because every class has one. It you can't like you can't you can't waste your life a lot of the time that way. You need to like think a little bit better in a lot of times that we play. So I have to instantly assume everyone's on stasis, or everyone was on stasis, but now I have to like recalibrate. You know what I mean? And I think that's a true like
Mm-hmm.
sign of the game, or the super not being as overtuned and strong anymore. Yes, I still see Stasis Titans, Behemoth
Mm-hmm.
Titans, and Winter's Wrath or Shadebinder fucking Warlocks, but it's nowhere near as much and as consecutively as it was in the past, like 2 or 3 months since Stasis came out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good point there, Bucko. So, I I have nothing. I think you said pretty much everything. I have not really anything else to say about the just like stasis or the ability in general. Uh, hmm. Trying to think.
I,
No, I think yeah, you covered
I
pretty much
think I
everything.
think
Just
I think another thing is certain exotic armor is getting way too much attention and is way too viable all the time. You know what I mean? I feel like One Eyed Mask is making a
like what?
resurgence, and I think they need to reevaluate. I
Oh yeah,
think
no.
it's more of not a. I'm tired of them nerfing stuff. I want them to reevaluate and rework stuff now,
Mm,
because I feel like that's a lot
mm,
better.
One Eye
I think
Mask is
yeah, I think One Eyed
definitely.
Mask needs to get reevaluated and relooked at. And then I think I
Mm,
think more exotics are going to get looked at for, at least in my opinion, being useless in general. But I feel like they need to prioritize
mm,
exotics that are getting disproportionately used in the Crucible and causing issues in the Crucible. Like,
mm,
maybe if everyone's running Mask of Bacchus, let's see why. Why is it this strong and overtuned? Let's look at why this is the most picked exotic. And I don't have a problem with exotics being good because they're good. I have exotics. I have a problem with exotics being good because they're overtuned. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind uh, the like arthritis embrace or whatever.
yeah, no, like on the point of mask, yeah, well, on point of mask of Baccaris, yeah, it turns your roll into a blink, but why does
Yeah,
it also increase your
like
arc
genuinely,
damage?
porque? Because there's no reason. Because now you can just run Found Verdict instead and have like Felwinter's 2.0, LMFAO, as some people would say. But
Mm-hmm.
there's certain questions that need to be answered as far as exotics go as to why they're that way. Like Mask of the Eternal Warrior, it literally is one line and it does one purpose and serves one goal, and that's it. It's like that should be relooked at, but not before things that need to get that are overtuned and problematic in the game now. I'd rather have new things come up that are problematic than have the same things come up that are problematic. Like, you know what I mean? I kind of
Mm-hmm.
want like some stupid exotics to get the limelight for a little bit because it's going to be refreshing instead of just they're back in the meta because of an oversight. Like, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I don't. Are there any exotics that you think are in the Crucible other than Brachus and One Eyed that are a little overtuned that you'd like to see at least reworked?
Okay. Transversive steps. Not transversive steps. Transversive
Yeah,
steps is fine. It's Geomags. It's like so. I will say this as a person that used to main Geomags, and also freaking Chaos Reach in the Crucible. Like, Geomags is a good exotic. It's a really good exotic, and there were a lot of people saying that it was bad, uh, for some reason. But the fact that at 85% you can just run around in a corner to get the rest of your super, and it also extends the duration of your super, so you can now compete with golden guns
Yep.
for DPS. It's fine for PvE. However, Chaos Reach, especially in Crucible, and I am saying this as a Warlock player who also used to main Chaos Reach in Crucible. The fact that you can reactionarily super anybody and have 50% armor
Very.
is stupid. You walk into someone's spawn with your full Chaos Reach with extended duration, and you just super the entire enemy team.
Nope.
And there's not much they can do about it. Because if someone explodes, it can kill the next person next to them. And that's like the biggest thing about Geomags is like, and it's what's making like transversive steps fall out of the meta is because yes, Chaos Reach just got nerfed and it's gonna probably get nerfed again. But it's gonna get nerfed again. But there's just so many oversights in that subclass that legit the shoes is what really makes it not fun to play against. It's just the shoes. Like if they toned back the shoes and or gutted it, Chaos Reach would not be as bad as it currently is. That's really it. Like I don't have any other problem with any. Well, obviously the one-eyed mask, like Worm Husk, I still think it's stupid. Like all of that, but like even transversal steps with the increased movement speed and being able to have your guns reloaded as you're sprinting, it's still not as oppressive as Geomags. Yeah, you get to just you can sprint faster and move around the map and have more mobility and all that, and that's cool. And it increases the dash distance of your top tree Dawn because you have increased movement speed. And that's still not as bad as one dude who is in a 3v1 and probably gonna lose and runs around in the corner for about 10 seconds and then gets a super and wipes an entire team. So.
Yeah.
And I will say this, like I said this before, if Bungie wants to make their game competitive and an actual viable game for Crucible, they really should be running scrims for Crucible every day for 3 to 4 hours. Because I said that at the beginning, and I'll say it now. Because there is no reason a lot of the stuff that comes through in this game should be allowed. It could be not enough manpower, but man, that should not be a thing.
Will be enough manpower though if we ever get jobs. At
100%. I like if I'm working there, I'm legit running nothing but scrims on the test team because there's no way I'm allowing another heir apparent with a catalyst or a dead man to go through.
It shouldn't have gone through in the first place, but it definitely wouldn't happen again. But
but that's kind of just it. Do you have anything else?
I mean, I also think that this is very, very minor and should not be fixed before any of the other issues that we have. But I think, personally, in my own opinion, that we should have emotes on the 6v6 entrance screen. So when you load into your Iron Banner match, everybody's just doing emotes. I think that would be the cherry on top of all the Crucible fixes, in my opinion.
Hey, if they can do it in
Exactly.
trials, why can't they do it
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
6v6?
Exactly my point. I just want to see like 6 people start
Uh,
doing random dances and stuff. I feel like it'll make everybody take the game a whole lot less seriously. If like 4 people are sitting there playing with their fake ghost dog. But yeah, no. Other than that, I don't have any other serious issues with Crucible right now. I feel like it's just those select few things, and since there's so many players in the game and all that, it's just exacerbated because that's really all you run, because there's not really a whole lot of options, so why would you run anything else? But yeah, that was I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I also don't have anything. Hopefully this is come across as uh not as complaining about the state of the game, because I enjoyed the Crucible. I think the Crucible is fun for me at least, and I enjoy outplaying people and just like putting my skill up to the match, which is why I always say I'm ready to throw down with the trial sweats. Um, but there's just like not there. There's a lot of things just in the game that I feel personally and objectively are a bit too overtuned and are just
Yeah,
too strong all the time, and it kills the fun in the game
yeah. Like I mean, it
for
kills the
multiple
fun of
reasons.
it, and it kills my willpower a lot of the time to one keep playing Destiny and two to play it competitively. It just I'm just kind of sitting there like, man, is it time for Grandmaster Nightfalls yet? Yes, sir.
Hey, that's next week.
But yes, that was it. I don't have anything else.
Right. Yeah. So with that being said, since both of us are out of topics, I'm sure we'll get in another Crucible game later today and find
Yes.
something. But other than that, we're gonna stop this here. I know this is probably extremely long, and I want to thank you for listening to and or watching, because there's definitely a lot of stuff that's in the game that if they like sat down in the
Mhm.
studio and just like perfected, bro, the Crucible would be
Yeah. No,
something
this
else.
Crucible
It would
could
actually
like
be.
honestly be the perfect mix between like Call of Duty and like Battlefield. Like in my opinion. Like the map size could be in between where Call of Duty and Battlefield is. So you have the room, but you also have like close quarters if you wanted to push close quarters and all that. You know what I mean? And then you could have like
Mm-hmm.
where Call of Duty was trying to go with like the future stuff just perfected. Like it would be the epitome of a first-person shooter for me, in all honesty, and at least in a PvP aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have the option of trials where it turns more into like a Valorant slash CS:GO mix, because you have to play super seriously and actually think about what you're doing instead of just running it down. But I mean, for me, it has probably the most potential of any first-person shooter on the market. But that may be incredibly biased because I spend most of my time in the game. But like, I feel like there's very few games that are doing it right, and Bungie is one of them. I feel like Siege is doing well, and I feel like Valorant's engagement's good. I don't know personally if their game's good because I haven't played Valorant in a long time. But uh, there's another game that I was playing recently that was doing well, but I can't remember it right now. Definitely not
Definitely not
Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Definitely not Overwatch. Oh, Deep Rock. Deep Rock is doing very well with their community and their involvement and development of the game, and with what they're working on. From what I've seen, at least, and their posts on Twitter and stuff, it seems like they're doing well with
Mm-hmm.
community engagement and development, kind of through the community almost. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's that's kind of it. I feel like Bungie is really poised and in this good position to make a really good, strong play into really strong prime AAA territory if they make a couple changes that they desperately need to anyway. But yeah,
Mm-hmm. So we will see. Season 15
it's just
is
around the
a
corner,
couple months
honestly.
away. Yeah. It's I think the end of the
Yeah,
season is August 24th.
it's around there.
So we will see what uh if the powers that be will grant us our wishes in the
Very
Crucible,
true. Very true. Or our
and if we are going to be
yeah,
very
and our
gamer,
wishes for
but
desk a desk at
a
Bungie with our
healthier
name
game
on it.
state.
That too. That too. We got to keep willing that into
Yes,
existence every day. Every day.
100%. Every
So
day.
yeah,
Every day.
that's is that it from us? 'Cause I think that's it from us.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good with
Alrighty.
that one. So we will catch you
It's
guys
third.
in another video. I'm sure there'll be more because it's us. All we do is just play
As
this
we're
game all
playing a
day
different game.
and pop off to say the least.
But
Yeah. As we're playing it every
yeah,
day, don't worry about it.
we
You
will
ain't see
probably be
nothing.
back with Grandmaster content because these seasonal mods are gonna make it
It's going to be
spicy.
interesting. It's
So
going to. Yep.
we'll see y'all at least next week, maybe before that.
All right.